Everyone has something that they engage with in terms of like commodity consumption that they enjoy, right? You've decided that fashion is unjustifiable wholly because you don't give a fuck about it. And that's fine. That's just your thing. Okay? You don't care about it, so it's easy for you to just be like, I don't give a shit about this. You know, why does this guy care about this? Meanwhile, once again, no matter what you're doing, my point is not fashion equals capitalism or we should walk around naked. My point is that a true culture industry is kind of concern. The culture industry kind of concern? Obviously, it's a drop in the bucket right in this moment. But why can we not spend some time criticizing the consumption that anesthetizes us? Oh, brother. Because the things that you are consuming do not make up who you are. Okay? It's just a thing that you do that makes you feel a certain type of way. Some people like to spend money on Warhammer 40K figurines. Others like to spend it on Dungeons and Dragons. Some enjoy buying guns. Some enjoy fashion. That's it. It is you who is placing emphasis on consumption and saying this actually means something. This actually says something about who you are. That's it. It's just like a normal human thing. Your argument is more so against just like humanity in general. You want to, I guess, like, you don't want anyone to express themselves in whichever way. If it's fashion that we're speaking of, you just don't want anyone to express themselves by this method. Okay, that's because that's all this is. If you can see, with all the lame ass fits that I was wearing, all those fits are just mostly free. I mean, even still to this day, I still get clothing that is sent to me. Yeah, this is the Marxist version of, I guess, put down the PlayStation and go and pick up the Prey Station. But instead, it's like wokely, Marxistly, we're saying the things that you consume. Yes, as an influencer, in air quotes, everything that I do has the capacity to influence others. Okay, that's just how it is. Text back Fate's team, by the way. I already did. They have not reached back out to me, as a matter of fact. I already did that. Hasan, when you accurately criticize him, commodity consumption is not human nature. Hasan, when you accurately criticize him, what are you saying? Brother, sister, this is not an accurate criticism. This is just your personal thing that you don't give a shit about. That's it. I'll give you an example. I'm sure if I were to search deep enough into your profile, I could find something that you spend money on, right? Everybody has something. It's fine. It's just like a normal part of it. It's just a normal part of existence. Okay? No, you can't, lol. Well, then you're an insane loser. Like, what do you mean? You don't like sports? You don't go and listen to music at a concert? What do you mean? You're like, nah, dude, I am the perfect moral being because I do no consumption whatsoever. Like, you don't buy books. You don't smoke weed. You don't have anything. You consume nothing. What the fuck are you talking about? Then you're just like not a human being. You're just like a vessel for Marxist agitprop every second of the week. It's so stupid. People unironically act as though that's not the case. Like, everybody has something. Everybody has something that like they enjoy. Okay, a way to. Someone has to. Oh, thank God, chatter. Thank God you're doing it by being unimaginably insufferable. No, you don't understand. I'm a monk, a socialism monk. Okay, I live in a cave. What the fuck are you talking about? You're in Twitch chat. Clearly, there are things that you enjoy. Okay, search deep enough, you can find the unethical nature of everything, because everything is built on this unethical construct of capitalism. You know, you have a computer, you're watching Twitch streams. It's so stupid. Who gets to determine what that boundary is? Do you get to determine it? Do you understand? Like, you're on an Amazon platform watching with either a computer or a smartphone that has like conflict minerals in it. There are a lot of people that make this argument unironically from the right, and we understandably make fun of them. What blows my mind is when like someone who is a self-styled leftist is doing that exact same socialism but iPhone argument. Okay. Now, is there a limit to bourgeois decadence? Certainly, of course. Everyone's limit, I guess, is different. Yours is a little unsustainable in comparison to the average person, is my point. Okay, but there are forms of consumption that are genuinely over the top, like fast fashion, which means there's a line, and therefore it may be helpful to talk about where that line is. Okay. What's crossing the line in my expenses? You can make somewhat of an argument, I guess, for something, but it has to be a decent metric for every single person. Okay. Your PR spending. Okay. So my non-existent PR spending. Also, do you think it's healthier to try and determine this like line in here and then try to get people to abide by this line that we created? Or do you think it's important to just like look at it and adjust it to the individual that we're looking at? Because most of the argument unironically revolves around socialism but rich. That's what it is. That's it. And it has nothing to do with like how that wealth was accrued, whether it's by capital accumulation or by wage labor or not, is inconsequential in that argument when we have this conversation. It's just socialism but poor. You have to be poor. That's it. Socialism is when poor is supposed to be a reactionary argument, one that people who don't understand socialism are advancing, not socialists themselves. It makes no sense. But that's basically what it comes down to. Dude, the fashion industry is uniquely wasteful, harmful, and provides no benefit to society whatsoever. Okay, once again, first of all, you're talking about $1,000 song for the mute pants are totally justifiable. Okay, take it up with March, who bought them for me. Sorry, that he unironically is a part of a cooperative structure and therefore has so much money in the process of working in a cooperative structure that he can literally buy me $1,000 pants. Wow, how up. You know what? You're right. I should cut his salary. He shouldn't get to have that level of wealth. Also, here's my counter argument. They're fire. But having said that, this argument is also, once again, idiotic. Not everything has to have a socially necessary labor. Lamau, what a straw man. I'm around. You're making a stupid argument. I'm going to describe to you why it's stupid in a second. Okay? Because there is a quality to, one, self-expression, for example. For the price point of those pants is not made by me. Okay? It's probably not worth that. Certainly not. Buddy, I'm an environmental scientist focused on air quality and climate adaptation. I don't care, dude. What the? Yeah. And you got no swag. You're not listening to the words that are coming out of my mouth. There is something that you also engage with. Everyone has this. It's normal. It's a normal human quality. Okay? Everyone has something that they engage with in terms of like commodity consumption that they enjoy, right? You've decided that fashion is unjustifiable wholly because you don't give a fuck about it. And that's fine. That's just your thing. Okay? You don't care about it, so it's easy for you to just be like, I don't give a shit about this. You know, why does this guy care about this? Meanwhile, once again, no matter what you're doing, there is 0% chance that you have no commodity consumptions that are wasteful or harmful, ultimately. And if there is, if you literally, truly abide by these standards, then ultimately you are a joyless, humorless person who has nothing in their lives that they look forward to and have dedicated every single moment to, I guess, fighting the imminent environmental catastrophe that can happen any day now by writing in the Twitch chat of a content creator that you actually enjoy the content of. Everything is relative, as some forms of consumption are far more frivolous than others. Yes, but you're determining that because you don't give a fuck about fashion is my point. But I'm sure there's a hobby that you actually enjoy. You know, you like traveling, so you fly around. Everybody has something, you know. Are you biking on your vacations if you actually ever have a chance to have one? No, you're flying, okay? Like, it's stupid to say that we should be cutting out these kinds of activities that make life enjoyable. is entirely stupid. That's it. Also, you've long been an advocate for thrift stores. If people can't even accept secondhand consumption from thrift stores, then what the fuck are we doing? That shit goes back to landfills? Exactly. My Warhammer hobby is not frivolous. If you are being honest with yourself, there is certainly something that you also personally enjoy. Bro, there's no way an environmental scientist who cares about climate is flying around as much as you're suggesting. At least go with he's using computers. I mean, everybody goes on vacation every now and then, you know? Hasan, you black and white chatters points and dismiss them without taking anything they say seriously. No, they aren't 100%, but it's a huge pattern. Because a lot of people don't understand the broader message that I'm presenting here, which is that you have to be normal. You have to be normal. And chirping at people over a thing that they enjoy consuming that you don't, in order to present yourself as like a more moral arbiter when they have an almost identical pattern of consumption for something else, is abnormal. You just look like a joy killer. You look like a woke scold. You look abnormal. You look unapproachable. You are not going to be a good vehicle to advocate for a better future for other people. And you can laser in on me saying this is like a defensive fashion and all of the worst externalities of fashion to say, oh, he's such a hypocrite. He just wants his fashion. I don't give a, okay. This shit could be $1. It doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Yes, dude, I get it. But your whole argument is I like it. Yeah, I'm a 6'4" man and I genuinely hate the experience of flying. Ha ha ha. Okay. That's just one example, chatter. I don't know you. I don't know what you do in your personal life, but it is virtually impossible for you to literally. It is, once again, you're not listening to what I'm saying. What I'm saying is many of you don't give a fuck about fashion, and that's fine, okay? Which is precisely the reason why you guys turn around and say, oh, this is like one thing. This is one thing that I can also live without. It's like me saying sports is bad. I think, and the NFL is harmful, okay? I think it's insane that people are literally slamming their brains from like ages 12 and onward into becoming family annihilators inevitably at the end of their career, and it should be banned. Why is that easy for me to say and make a convincing argument as to why I can say that? Because I don't watch football, because I don't give a fuck about football. But that would be psychotic if I was running around making that argument about how harmful it is that we're actually teaching children to behave like ultra-violent animals, okay? That would be up if I was making a convincing case. Just because something has a convincing case in your mind, because you don't personally give a shit about it, doesn't mean that like that's going to be something that I put forward as a reasonable argument. Yeah, see, you're doing it again. That's another thing you don't give a fuck about. You're like, oh, in a better world, football wouldn't be a sport, of course. Shut up. Be a normal human. Please. This is what I mean when I say be normal. Be normal, first and foremost. If you were to have a conversation such as this one with a person that cares about like whatever particular hobby that you're like admonishing as a truly harmful thing, they're going to look at you like you're a psycho. They're going to be like, yeah, okay. All right. Well, have fun. Why would that be psychotic? That's a totally reasonable argument. Oh my God. Okay, dude. Because ultimately it comes down to you have a finite amount of time on this space, okay? On this planet when you are alive. And if you want to actually convince people, you can't constantly be looking to purify your movement with like externalities that otherwise are inconsequential in the grand scheme of things. That's my point. Okay? You become insufferable. And I think a lot of people mistake being a moral figure with that posturing. Like being insufferable is all of a sudden the best possible way to market yourself as like the most moral being. That's not how it works. Now, does this mean that like you should let things go? You should let things fly? Of course not. If someone's like slinging the N-word around you, checking that person is understandable. You're not being Mr. Moral here, okay? But there is a balance to it, okay? And that's what the problem is. In most circumstances, you also try to like tackle individual consumption as a way to do activism, and it turns into the same exact argument. Yes, fast fashion is really bad. This is not fast fashion. Like what the? Ironically enough, expensive clothing is not fast fashion. So that's not even, that's besides that point. Okay. It'd be like arguing with me because I went and got like a piece of Wagyu steak and you were like, well, do you know how harmful the cattle practices are in the United States of America? Okay, well, I'm not eating the cattle in that situation, am I? That's it. And the reason why I'm not even taking this personally because of fashion, I don't give a, okay, yeah, sure, burn all the clothes. Who gives a shit? That's not it. The reason why I take this personally is because this comes from the exact same perspective that I think make people on the left come across as like broadly insufferable. That is the problem. Okay? It's a different version of saying that this is unethical. This thing that everyone enjoys is actually unethical because why are you watching a war movie? Why'd you watch Top Gun? You enjoyed Top Gun? Don't you know that it's actually a Air Force marketing opportunity so that a bunch of young children can go and join the Air Force and go laser brown children overseas? Like, be normal, be cool, please. Because ultimately, all of your arguments in a deeply unethical design of society, all of your arguments can revolve around the ethics of everyday minutia consumption and how unethical it actually is, including down to the phones that we all use to communicate with one another that has conflict minerals in them. And the extraction of said conflict minerals are deeply unethical. If you were to constantly talk about these sorts of things, it would be impossible for you to actually make any convincing arguments whatsoever to people around you. You just become a loser that nobody wants to be around. And a lot of people in the margins that would otherwise agree with you literally hear you chirp about this as though this is a serious struggle session and turn around and go, I don't want to be a part of that. That sounds awful and lame. What we have to do on the left is unironically to describe the grand design of society to average people who take that shit for granted and don't want to think about it. So you have to make sure that you're not extra annoying in the process. And some of you literally think being extra annoying in the process is actually the best possible way to show how moral you are. Okay? Being insufferable is part of being a leftist. Lennon was like the most insufferable guy by all accounts of those who knew him. I'm just like Lennon when I yell at Twitch streamers for wearing clothes. I am the revolution. Stop getting one guy. Nobody actually cares. No, there are definitely a lot of people who care. This is unironically a major point of contention that I've always had with the left. It is a major issue that I've had with the broad left. And even after this back and forth that just took place today, there will be a ton of people chirping at me online saying, oh, he just likes to buy expensive clothes. That's the reason why he's so insecure about this, because deep down inside, he knows it's an unethical form of commodity consumption. And he just wants to keep defending it. That's why you all support him. You should buy my Substack instead. I'm the most moral leftist. That's literally what's going to happen. It's happened a million times over, and it's always going to continue. That cycle has happened 1,000 times since the beginning of my career. Pretending as though fashion equally as harmful as other industries is silly and dismissive. According to an analysis by Business Insider, fashion production comprises 10% of all global carbon emissions, as much as the emissions generated by the European Union. Fashion production comprises the 10% of all total global carbon emissions. Dog, you're describing the process of people building, the people making clothing. Unless you're talking about fast fashion in particular, which again, I'm not even a part of. So you're arguing about something that I'm not even, something that I'm not doing. This is not a good argument. You did that, okay? Unless you're talking about the entirety of like the clothing business, and that's a ridiculous argument to make anyway. But if you're talking about fast fashion, okay, I don't participate in fast fashion. And also, ironically enough, the pieces of clothing that I wear all the time to this day that I have bought that is fast fashion, okay, is like a ASOS garment that I wear all the time. You know that denim jacket that I wear that has the red bar over it? That's fast fashion. Except it's not fast because I've been wearing it for 12 years and still wear it. It's one of my favorite jackets to wear. Do you understand? People find them insufferable because people don't like to be told they're doing wrong. People in the West find advocates for Palestine insufferable because it shows them how their consumption is causing insane suffering around the world. Does that mean you stop? No, because there is a difference between an active genocide that we are actually contributing to with unlimited munitions and like you saying, I don't like that you care about fashion, so I'm going to make a bad argument about how you are an advocate for fast fashion when you're not. That is not a comparable argument, okay? Because it's not even something that I'm in favor of or advocating for. But ultimately, no matter what, hyper focusing on individual consumption is not, it's just totally idiotic way to go about things in any way, in all circumstances. A good example of communicating this without being insufferable is The Good Place. So what you're trying to do is approach the subject matter with the most defensible position, which is one that I am not even in disagreement with, but you're ham-fistedly shoving your defensible position to something that you're to a broader point that you're making that is utterly indefensible. And I already identified that, and I already told you, like, that's not something that I'm participating in any way, shape, or form, right? What? Genocide didn't happen in a vacuum. Is something that got to that point. It's a gradual process that leads to the fact that gets to where the world ignores a genocide, like buying iPhones, causing a genocide in Congo, or your clothes using slave labor in Bangladesh. What is the item that you are currently using in order to write this over the internet? I don't think that's great either. It's something that I speak out against as well. But what do you think you're doing right now? There's a difference between, hey, this is harmful. This is a harmful aspect of the systems that we exist under, and we should do our very best to stop it, versus behaving as though you are not participating in the thing that you're criticizing others over in that very moment. That repositioning is a logical fallacy called Mon and Bailey. Do you ever think there's a concerted effort to derail your commentary into stupid stuff instead of talking about the things that matter? This is my Cracker Barrel. No, because I think this is a legitimate issue with the left that needs to be addressed every other week, or virtually every single day. It's just like, even in this process of the conversation, I'm sure there are plenty of people who are like newer leftists who abide by this assessment, who personally think, you know what, that argument did make sense when that guy explained it to me, but then they hear what I am explaining, and then they go, okay, maybe I was a little, maybe that is a little bit of a ridiculous standard to apply to every single thing, including things that I'm also personally engaging in. Every week I go to my local union staff meeting and I berate all the members for owning grotesque commodities such as clothing, food, personal vehicles, and items for personal joy and happiness. I explain to them how, under my worldview, they would not be allowed to have any of those items, and even jailed for even thinking about them. For some reason, they beat me up after every meeting, and I don't know why. But one day, I will actually build the most moral, most pure form of communism around the globe by doing this every single week. We are literally just doing this meme about consumption, and the stupid assets are on the right-hand side, talking about gender with trans people versus talking about gender with cis people. Like, there's a difference between having to travel via plane versus like whatever the Taylor Swift is doing. You know what I mean? And if your standard is like you're traveling by plane to go to a faraway distance, and that is ruining the planet, then that standard is so psychotic that you can't, like, you're applying it to every single normal human being. You want to abolish like a form of travel. Yeah, no more air travel. Dude, you aren't addressing the left. You're addressing some dweebs who is looking to project their sense of powerlessness onto you so they can feel better about themselves. There's bigger fish to fry. True. But every now and then, I think it's important to have, I see this as like housekeeping, It's good to have this conversation every now and then. It's somewhat productive to have this conversation every now and then, so you don't fall into the my only expression of being a leftist is by making sure that everyone is using paper straws or whatever. You know what I mean? How do you respond to the allegations? Address the allegations.
Spreadsheets and people going, if we do less, we can cash out with more. And that's the American dream, to do all and to cash out with a lot more money. Okay?
Everyone who's attended a DSA meeting knows one of those lefties. Yeah. What? Oh, Richie Torres is on the Adam Friedland show. Let's go. It gives more context than yelling be normal, and might even help some people identify themselves from it. I hope. I try to. But the thing is, like, there are certain things that I like that many people in my community might not. Drip being one of them, Fashion is a means of self-expression. It has existed in perpetuity. It is always, I'm sure that cavemen probably put on like a weird leaf on their head as a way to identify themselves as differently than others. Okay. It's just a normal aspect of human existence. It's, like I said, a method of self-expression. Just because you don't like it, I don't like music. I don't listen to music. I'm not going to run around being like, we should abolish the music industry. It's hyper exploitative. The 360 deals are completely unjustifiable. It's, the Spotify structure is destroying artistry in general. I don't even think that people should listen to music at all. After all, even the creation of the music is actually time consuming. It's costly. It's making the environment worse. We could just live without music. What do you mean? If you want to listen to music, just like whistle. That's the most ethical form of entertaining yourself. Music is bourgeois decadence. And then I point to all this silly nonsense. It would be really annoying and really stupid. Okay, I don't do that. There are plenty of things that I don't actually. There are plenty of things that I could do away, considering that every single thing under capitalism is unironically cultivated and created in an unethical manner. Okay, poor thing to compare fashion to. Why? Music is valuable, though. What do you mean? No, it's because you like music and you don't give a fuck about fashion. That's the point I'm making. No, it all comes down to you personally like that thing, and I don't give a fuck about it, but I would never advocate to abolish it. What do you mean? The point should always be, it's culture, so is fashion. What are we talking about? That's it. It's not gonna, by and large, a lot of Twitch chatters don't give a fuck about this, so it's virtually impossible for me to make a convincing case here. So I'm trying to use an analog of something you do care about by talking about like the deep unethical nature of whatever thing that you enjoy consuming that I don't give a fuck about, but you will never understand it because ultimately it comes down to, no, I actually like this thing and do care about it and it's impactful in my life. So of course I want it to be there. I want it to exist. The standard should be, will it exist without hyper exploitation? Will it exist without exploitation? If the answer is yes, then it's not the actual thing that you want to abolish. It's more so that the mechanism of production that you want to change. Okay? That's it. They're not even at the point of discussing productive versus unproductive labor yet. They're infant leftists. I just don't. Oh, God. How does fashion enrich the soul, brother? Bro, learn to target fire against your audience. Bring up games and text and electricity. Stop mentioning sports and fashion. I'm using other things that normal people actually also happen to care about that you might not. But at least it's like close enough that you might have encountered someone who appreciates it in the wild. That's the reason why I'm using those things. But you're right. Gaming is another great example of this. I am not speaking to normal people. You are not wrong. I am speaking to abnormal people, and therefore, ultimately, it still always comes down to there's no ethical consumption under capitalism, and it is capitalism that you should be targeting rather than the individual consumption itself. Now, is there, are there grand expenditures that you could point to that are like far too much? Sure, certainly. Yeah, abolish golf courses. I don't need to know how to play golf and know how wasteful golf courses are. Lawns and wasting water for it changed my mind. I mean, I agree. Again, it's super easy for me to say, but people enjoy it. The point of that should be, is there a better way, a more ethical way to do it? This argument boils down to, yes, you are right that everything besides food, water, and sleep is unnecessary for human existence, but people will kill you if you try to limit them to only food, water, and sleep. Yeah, and also, the question also should be, do we want to live in a society where we only get food, water, and sleep? Isn't that unironically the way that right-wingers present what a socialist dystopia to look like? Why the fuck are you, as someone who is a supposedly card-carrying leftist, making that argument for them? And then they just look at you and go, see, they don't want anything. They want to steal your toothbrush. And you're like, no, you don't understand. Communism is when I get to steal your toothbrush. Okay? That's it. That's my problem. It's literally no different. We do need enrichment. Yes, that's humans. Humans need enrichment. Okay? But the problem is leftists sometimes look at the cartoonish depiction of the broader left that right-wingers present us as to the normies, the apolitical normies, and they say, nah, that is me. I am exactly like that. And actually, the fact that you are not like that is a problem. You should be exactly like that. I am more moral than you. I am more leftist than you. This is my front-facing attitude about how I'm going to communicate my worldview to the average onlooker. Okay. And it's crazy because like this is unfortunately a byproduct of how unimaginably successful anti-communist and anti-socialist propaganda has been in this country, that people who somehow accidentally arrive at this conclusion still maintain some of these like old reactionary opinions. Okay. That, and also like a endless seeking of like an endless way to try and make yourself and your movement pure. The less you eat, drink, and read books, the less you go to the theater, the dance hall, the public house, the less you think, love, theorize, sing, paint, fence, etc., the more you save, the greater becomes your treasure, which neither moths nor dust will devour your capital. The less you are, the more you have. The less you express your own life, the greater is your alienated life, the greater is the store of your estranged being. That's all good, but this didn't know what the climate change was. I mean, there's a very famous Japanese Marxist who would argue against that, and has written extensively on this, as a matter of fact. So, you know, maybe maybe he couldn't comprehend the full scope of anthropogenic climate change, but to say that Marx was not invested in the common goods, even from not just from the point of enclosures, but just in general, but the preservation of the world and trying to prevent ecological disasters is wrong. Now, of course, I shouldn't be bringing up Saito because he is a degrowth guy overall. And I don't know if he would, I think he would be the type who tells me I'm doing too much and consuming too much as well. But anyway, my point is no one lives like an ascetic monk. And especially if you're like trying to make a broad movement, you definitely should just keep that kind of opinion to yourself. Okay? That's it. People say I do, but you don't. You're watching me on Twitch. I don't want to ban video games because I'm a leftist. I want to do it because gamers are annoying. Okay, fair. Yesterday gaming was so much more fun. Can we have more of that, please? Universal healthcare isn't a real way towards ecological luxury. I would love to see you sit down with the Seriously Wrong pod and hear about their ecological socialism program. What? Brother, wrong. I'm watching you on a YouTube restream on a sidewalk in Vienna, chatting on the community-free Moto smartphone. Hell yeah. I don't get it, though. You say, like, engaging in high fashion is just like existing. If you did it to an absurd amount, it would be hypocritical. Who decides the line there? Is it just feels? Yes. Yeah, it is. And people's individual opinion about whatever the you're consuming is what dictates it. And that's the reason why a lot of people can't comprehend it. I mean, the greatest example is like the machines that you purchase to play video games in this platform, okay? Incredibly costly, created through unethical means, uses, once again, minerals extracted in conflict areas that are kept underdeveloped deliberately so that that point of extraction is as cheap as physically possible. It's put together with low cost labor overall, and you take that shit for granted and you purchase it and you buy it, and you don't need to buy it. Do you need to buy the latest console? No, you don't. You have all the devices. You buy the new ones. It would be like me saying, well, I haven't bought a Nintendo Switch 2 because it's so similar to Nintendo Switch 1. Meanwhile, many of you have bought the Nintendo Switch 2 if you had the opportunity to do so. You don't consider that to be an unethical expenditure. Others might. How do you make that assessment? You see what I mean? So if it just feels, can you really call the socialists who hate on you for that wrong? Yes, I can. And the reason why I'm saying it's wrong is because every single person has their own metric for it. And arguing on individual consumption is an unproductive point of contention overall. Engagement with the story is different than clothes. No, you just don't care. That's it. That's the reason why. Of course, you're going to say the example that I'm bringing up is actually different because the difference is you like it and you care about it. It's still subjective, though. And it's also utterly irrelevant in the grand scheme of things. Do you not see the reason why you will never comprehend the gaming argument is because you like it and you can't live without it and you enjoy it and you enjoy the consumption of it, and therefore it's worthy. It's right by your metric, but wrong by their metric. Yes, but here's the problem. There are plenty of things that I think are silly and irrelevant, but you don't see me making an active push to abolish it because I understand that it's a normal part of human existence. Just because I don't appreciate it or I don't enjoy it doesn't mean that it doesn't have any meaning for other people. Okay? That's it. This is always the argument. And it's one that's really silly. And I don't think I'll ever be able to get this point across to many people. Like, it's just there's no counterexample that I can give you, because as soon as it's something that you care about, you're like, what do you mean? This is an immensely significant part of my life. How dare you compare it? That's why I used sports as an analog. That's why I used music as an analogy. That's why I used gaming as an analogy. And everyone that actually likes that thing but doesn't care about another thing that they're criticizing, this time being fashion, for example, a mechanism of self-expression, for example, said, no, that's different. But they don't actually internalize why that's different. They don't realize that it's different because it's different to you, because you as an individual care about that, but you don't care about the other thing. I had a friend tell me they should have left our community today because of how insane chat was talking about Taylor's engagement today. Life is more than 27 news and theory content. People like enjoying life. I think if you are a leftist, you should never be caught dead saying, I want to take this or that away from you. Like, and don't try to make a comparison to BDS, okay? An active contribution that is entirely aligned with halting a state that is doing a genocide and associations with a state that's doing a genocide is not a comparable comparison to like broad swaths of consumption that billions of people don't ever think about and aren't and there's a individual active consumption that you engage with. No, even guns, dude. Yes, it's not about literally the abolition of all weapons. It's about reasonable gun control and safety. This kind of back and forth with leftists unironically turns into the whole like, well, comedy's not for me, so it shouldn't be for anybody. Okay, yeah, BDS is hyper targeted too. BDS is against brands, not commodities. Are you actually against minerals extraction because you're making it sound like it when you mention extraction in developing countries? No, I'm not. I'm saying that there's a more ethical way to do this, but we are not currently doing that. People think that if we take away the trees, a leftist revolution will begin, but we saw during COVID, right-wingers are crazy and will shoot you over the right to jalapeno poppers. No, I don't even think that that's correct. I'm not going to be playing Peak today, chat. Y'all are crazy. I am not going to play Peak today. I'm going to play Peak tomorrow, though. Anyway, today I ended up playing basketball with Elam. No, he bailed this morning. Coward. No, he had a headache and he couldn't go to sleep until later. So I told him it's all good. I know this is irrelevant, my bad, but I need to warn you that if you use a Taco Bell salsa verde sauce after keeping it for a few weeks, it will have gone bad and ruined your burrito that you worked really hard on. Thank you. Thank you, chatter. All right, that's all I got for today. I'm glad that we went through this long and convoluted process. I'll be back tomorrow as always. You already know what it is, baby.